G'day and welcome to kind of like an intermediate video. I had lots of material on a old 1960s floor polisher that I did, and I put it together and it's got a noise, it's not quite right. So it's a matter of pulling it apart again, having a look at it, putting it back together, and then doing an end to that video, if you know what I mean. All for probably 800 views, so I'm kind of less enthusiastic to do it, but I've kind of, I don't know. I do bits and pieces like this every now and then return to cars and bikes. So I don't know what the best way to do it is, but that's about the size of it. So I've been receiving parts from people, and it's really, really kind of them. I did receive this. This is a die-cast model of is it a 58? Yeah, 58 Plymouth Belvedere. It's all metal. It's all opens and closes and does everything it's supposed to do. It's a beautiful piece of kit. This was sent by David Camilleri, and it's already dusty. It is. The detail on the thing is brilliant. It's actually really, really good. Now, along with that stays inside the study. It doesn't live out here. Is these two magazines, of course, or magazine and an article. This is the Wheels magazine from 1958, August 1958, which has the full test on the Plymouth. Quite surprisingly, it's a 118 mile an hour car. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be in one of those things at 120 miles an hour. And if you think back in 1958, we were driving the Holdens and this sort of stuff that was scratching to get 80 miles an hour. And these things almost, I mean, that's, what, 6 miles an hour off 200 kilometres an hour. That's seriously quick for 1958. That, I think the tested one was the 318. They were really ahead. It wasn't just forward look, it was also forward performance back then. They were quite incredible. Of course, also they got the different body styles and so forth, or at least the different models that were affiliated with Virgil Exner of the time. And there's an advertisement there. And this sort of stuff is brilliant. And thank you so much, David, if you see this. It's wonderful. I've been sending a few bits and pieces out. I sent Saul Hudson a headlight from the XC, one of the ones I wasn't using. And I had some XAXB GT, I'm sure it's the right stuff, vinyl, sheet vinyl, that a friend wanted, and he couldn't get it anywhere, and I had a square metre of it here. And I said, no, have it, it's all good. If you think about what people charge on eBay for these sorts of things, it's ridiculous. And I wanted an enthusiast to have it. And I met another chap like that too, his name was Bill, I don't remember his surname. He gave me some more, I've got them over there, just a minute. Now, Nathan Hickey was kind enough to give me some parts, sun visors, and he gave me an XW workshop manual and all this sort of stuff. One of the, what do you call it? Sun visors was all split, but Bill had a great replacement, and also that little junction thing for the centre. So it's another thing we don't have to get. In fact, he gave me 2 of them. I'll give him back what I don't use. He was a bit nonchalant about it and said, you know what, don't even worry. But it was really kind of him. And he's like me. He's got all this stuff. He's got a lot more stuff than I have, actually. And it's about the enthusiast, not about the rip-off prices. And we both, there's a guy I always whinge about, and he's terrible what he charges for bits and pieces. And Bill has the same opinion of him that I do too. And I can't mention who he is here, but I could easily live without him. But it was really lovely to meet Bill. I should have taken a camera. He didn't mind, but he's got some beautiful stuff, really, really nice stuff, and very similar taste to me. So he's got an XW, I've got an XW. He had an XC, a GXL, that I think he said his brother had, and you know, he's got an XE, a 351 XE. I've got an XD. You know, we have a very similar taste. And Bill actually reached out to me some time ago, I think when I started the XC, and I didn't see the message. I don't remember seeing it, which is a bummer because he could have saved me a load of heartache, because he's got pretty much all the bits I needed. Well, not all of them, but he's got a lot of them. So, in this one, we have a look at the choke on the XD. I went to see Mum in it, and it over-choked and blew black smoke all over the place, and I thought, this isn't cool. Turns out it was just something a little bit sticky, but I do have to fix that. But we'll have a look at what it was, or have a look at what are we looking at? We'll have a look. We'll investigate it. That's probably a better way of putting it. We'll investigate it. And I now know what I need to do to repair it. And we go for a bit of a road test in it. And that is around about it for this video. I haven't got an awful lot for you this week. As I said, I spent a lot of time on that electrical thing, that floor polisher, and I haven't ended up using the footage. And that's basically a 45-minute video. So if you want to see it, I'll upload it, but otherwise we'll forget it. Oh, one more thing too. Brother, bless him, has bought this rather lovely set of Recode or new, I don't know what they are, lowering springs for the XW. There's 5 leaves there. That's why I thought they might be utility or some sort of commercial one, panel van, maybe wagon. But no, apparently not. They're reconditioned or new. I don't know what they are. I'm assuming they're reconditioned. They're a different height, so your taller one goes on the driver's side to obviously cater for the driver, particularly if he's fat like I am. But these need to go on the car, and that will sort out its ridiculous ride height, which you can't see from here. I washed that sheet to put back on it. Pardon me. What else was there? There was something else I wanted to say, and I just can't remember what it was. But anyway, oh yeah, that's what I got to say. I've started cleaning up around this screen too. I need to get that in that Epotech stuff. Haven't started yet, but we need to make a start on that and start driving this car around because the MG's out in the weather under a cover, and that's less than favourable. So yeah, gotta continue cleaning up around there. They rejected. I don't know what the story with that was, but it was something in the primer, in the urethane primer, that didn't like what was underneath it. So we'll fix that up, get that car back outside where it belongs, and put the G back in here. Really unusual for this car. It's over choking, and normally when you start it cold, it'll chug a little bit. You bring the revs up, it clears out, and off you go. Now what's happening with this is it was chugging, so I took off, and it got worse, and had to stop and then try and clear it out and drive off again. It clagged up again, so the choke wasn't operating. It was sort of over choking. I've also noticed this, a bit of a coolant leak onto the rock cover from that tab, so I might have got a tap for it. But in the meantime, the most important thing, well, it needs an oil change as well, is to find out what's going on. I'm going to take that off. Air cleaner. I'm trying to figure, I haven't touched the throttle yet. What I ended up doing, I had to pull up at my work actually and just manually open the choke. What I want to check for is power here, and I don't know if it's getting power there. Let's bring around the other side. And that looks like it's off. I'm not going to touch it yet, I'm just going to start the engine. I might just have to block off that vacuum port, just a sec. I want to see if that's getting power. Volts. Right. Yeah, 7 volts. It's only charging 13.6, which is a bit of a worry. Still on a fast idle. I'm wondering if that's working. That's warm, so that's open. Just let it warm up a little bit. Surprisingly, the EGR still works. That's normal. That linkage is all not what I thought it was. I thought that coil had played up. And I don't know why that fast idle felt really shabby. Hang on. Hoses are stiff on this thing too. I wonder if it's lost a bit of coolant. No? If the coolant's low, it can affect how your TVS switches operate, the thermal vacuum switches. If I take that off idle, that seems to be falling, the fast idle. Seems to be doing what I want it to do. I'm just going to check that screw down there, maybe lubricate that point as well. The problem is we're on club permit, and that is a real privilege. And I don't want to be blowing black smoke all over people in what seems like an ill sort of taken care of car. I'm just going to spray around it a bit. If it turns out that when I start it cold again and it fixes it, I'll start pulling these linkages off and lubricating them properly. This stuff will just evaporate off. So I'll just go around and maybe even if it's getting sticky on that little thing there. It does look dirty, but the car still runs so well, you know. I'm just going to spray around it. I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is. And I could probably even take that off now. It's just a bit fiddly to get to. I think we might just leave it there. And we'll go for a road test. And you know, that will most likely, well, hopefully sort it. Let's take this off, that's just a temporary thing. Because this is my most valuable car. As I say, not in monetary terms, but certainly in every other way, it is. And that's why I've left it completely original. The compressions were down, I noticed a while ago, but I don't want to, just don't want to do anything about that. The charge rate is a little bit low though, I have noticed. So we might have to look at the regulator. It's had a regulator years and years ago, but it needs an oil change as well, this thing. It's pretty neglected. Okay, so it's come on to fast idle again. I better fill my book out in just a minute. This is what I'm waiting for to see if it... I just want to see if it comes off fast idle. I'll let it cool down for a little while. Oh no, it's off now. Better just go and get my wallet. I've left my wallet. Well, it seems alright. I probably won't know until we do another cold start. But it seems to be alright at the moment. is like. Maybe get the plugs nice and warm, because I don't want to. I drove it on a choke, and that's terribly bad for it. I'll give it an oil change. It hasn't had one for a while, and none of the cars I've got will actually last. We'll do the full 10,000, you know, between oil changes. I always change it about 500 because that's all I seem to do. But this is how it always drives. It needs a front end alignment because I had one done a while ago and the back wheel was loose. So they aligned it off the back, and it always drove better and truer than this. But it's still, you know, it's old and it's crusty and all that sort of stuff, but it's still such a nice car to drive. And it's got loads of power, and, you know, it keeps up with all the modern traffic. I can't complain about it. You've got to cherish the club permit system. If I've got a car that isn't running properly, or it's smoky or doing anything like that, there's no way I'd put it on the road or drive it on the road. It's just too risky. You might get some environmentalist report it to the EPA, and that puts the whole system in jeopardy when people take advantage of it like that. It really is a privilege, and so welcome. They're talking about making it 30 years instead of 25. I don't ever put my foot down in this car. You don't need to. It's got plenty of torque. I think the last time that anyone would have hooked into it was Hubnut, but he didn't seem to. I don't think he let it kick back to first. I think he sort of let it labour away in second gear. There's that guy that hangs around the 7-Eleven. He always asks for money. My brother's bought some lowering springs for the XW for the bag. He got sick of seeing it too far up, although they're very heavy. I said, are these ute or wagon? He said, no, sedan, but they've got a lot of leaves in them, probably more GT spec type stuff. So I've got to get that car out with those springs in, but before I do, I want to get some front springs and spring saddles. I really don't like the spring saddles that are in it. Otherwise, I'm very happy with that car. It's just sort of empty by the XC at the moment. I've got to go home in a minute and drag that up and find out why I haven't got a clutch. But, you know, this is all doing what it's supposed to do now. It's off choke. I put my foot down and it blew a whole lot of brown, just gunk out of the exhaust, which is to be expected. It's never normally given any. No one ever puts their foot down. Not a bad idea from time to time, just so you know you don't get bits and pieces sticking, and that choke's probably one thing that hasn't got to do with where you have your foot. It's more to do with the fact that the car gets little use. So you know, we'll see. Oh no, it's a Peugeot. They all bloody look the same now. It's not that bad, but 323 and a 302 is really, really good. 351s have that bit more torque flow in. Traditionally they used to put 275s in those, 292s in the 302 engines, and it also it's a compromise, just a high speed driving, they're not revving their ass off. this one to bed, and then we'll have a look at the XC. I need to get under the front, find out what's going on with that clutch fork. I think it's bent. I tried to do a haphazard sort of weld gig on it to change where it was being actuated from, and I think that wound up being a little bit counterproductive. I think I did more harm than good. Look how dirty this thing is. And, you know, consequently it's failed, and I can't do much with it. So it's going to be a gearbox out job, which I don't want to do because the gearbox is in. The tail shaft I've just got, that's obviously coming out, but I'll leave it in the back of the gearbox to try and keep all the oil there. It's just a pain in the neck having to do it, but you know, I'll make sure I do it properly. I did rush putting that thing in, and you know, consequently that's what happens when you rush a job. I knew it wasn't right, and I went ahead and put it in because I wanted to put it in. And with a family and all this sort of stuff, you snatch an hour here and an hour there. And when I put the engine in the XC, I think I had a couple of hours, and I just had to just go ahead and do it, knowing full well that there was an issue with one of the parts. So, you know, it is what it is. Probably not within the interest of car and motorcycle people. I grabbed another one of these hair dryers, these 1956 jobbies, the same as the one that I did up of, I think it was Mum's. Yeah, it was Mum's, when she came out from Britain. This one I picked up because the motor casing, or the motor carrier, was cracked. It's bakelite, and I picked it up as a spare. It was £15. When I got it, which was today, I realised it's got this rubber stuff in it again. You can see how flaky it is. And although the cord looks good, I just bared those conductors with my fingernails. It just all falls off. So that's no good. It did have the British plug on it, obviously, which is better than the Aussie ones. I really like these. I do have a few English appliances, and I was thinking about getting a power board and putting a Australian plug on. The Aussie plugs are weak. They're terrible. Have I got one here to show you what I'm talking about? Just a minute. There's a new one. And quite often you find with these things, I don't know about you, but I always find those pins are very flimsy, and quite often you're pulling them apart to fit them in the socket anyway. They're rubbish. But that's what we've got in this country, and that's what's legal in this country. These, on the other hand, are so stout. They're great. They're just better. I'm not going to rewire all my appliances in these, obviously. I mean, that would be probably not even legal, but they're fused. They're really, really good. But I do have some appliances which do have British plugs on, so anyway, food for thought. But I thought this stuff would be alright, and it's not. That's not the original flex from it, or power lead from it. That goes in the bin. But also the insulator and the heater is gone. Someone's glued it. You can see it's got some sort of epoxy sort of stuff there, and it's pretty much rubbish. So I'm not sure that I'll do anything with this. Bang it back together. It's a good little source of spare parts, although even then I'm not likely to use parts on it because I'm not using the other one as a daily or anything like that. But yeah, it's quite stiff. It needs a bit of servicing. But anyway, that's another thing that rolled up in the post. Well, that's it. That's all I've got. The XD thing, what I'll do, I'll take those linkages off the carburetor, clean them up. There's a lot of muck around there, kind of dusty crap, if you know what I mean, that's been mixed with, I don't know, sweaty fuel or something. I'm not really sure, but I've got to take them off, clean them up, lubricate them, put them on. It's most important that that clutch, that fast idle for the choke, is very floppy, so to speak, because it relies on its weight to turn the thing off. So I can do that any time. It's a no-brainer. You just unscrew it and clean it and light machine oil, put it on. You wouldn't use grease on that because it might hang on a bit, if you know what I mean. And so that will sort that out. I do have to give the car a service. I'm not going to be filming oil changes. You know, I mean, I'm pretty much, you pull electrical stuff out and it's YouTube suicide. But, you know, I mean, what do you do? So, I've got a lot of work to do. I was going to start pulling the gearbox out of the XC in this one. I've got to take it out because there's a problem with the clutch fork. Graham, bless him, the XA Coupe guy, sent me a couple of clutch forks. They're both top loader ones. Not sure I'll be able to fit them, or fit one of them, but I need to take this one out and really see what's wrong with it. And, what else was there? I can't remember. Oh well, it's just too cold. I don't want to be out here. It's like 10 degrees, and lying under a car in 10 degrees sucks. So, I'll just wait till the weather warms up a little bit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.
with you? Don't you have a life?
I have every right to
Do you
freedom
have
of
a
speech.
life?
Are you proud to be an animal abuser?
Are you proud to be a
You have the
fuckhead?
right to know the truth. See what really happens to these
Fuck off!
beings. See what really happens to them.
What do you reckon? She haven't.